An online form can be a pretty sophisticated function to implement in your web page because of all the um, elements to the form. And so, just if you think about it, there's a lot of steps in the process of a user sending you a correspondence through your website that you may not even realize. The first order of business is just the actual form itself. Now, the form itself, we all want a good-looking form, so there takes some knowledge of HTML and CSS just to get a good-looking form put up. But there's some elements to that user just filling out and submitting that form too. If you think about it, once you've actually designed your form and you have the user filling out the information, there's this idea of that information needed to be validated before they send it out. And validation is going to look for things like whether or not the field is required, right? Most forms are going to require that you put your name and email address and that kind of information. The other kind of validation is the right kind of content in there? I mean, if the one field is looking for a phone number and the other field is looking for an email address and the user ends up getting that data across and they're putting in their phone number where it says email, well, before they submit that, you kind of want to put a break and say, hey, by the way, you this doesn't look like the right kind of information for this field. Not only that, how about you want the information that they already put in to still be in there? Because I mean, we've all been to websites that, you don't put something in the required field and it erases everything in your form. I mean, that is insanely annoying. It almost makes you not even want to fill it out again. Uh, and okay, so that's just the form validation part. Once the user fills everything out properly and sends it out to you, there's some back end process that happens there that's pretty sophisticated. For example, you have to get all that information and send it to the server in order for it to more than likely generate an email, right? Because if I submit a form to you through your website, probably there'd be by the standard is to have two emails sent out. One to me that says, hey, someone submitted the following in your form. And two is an email to the user that says something like, well, thank you for submitting your form and blah, blah, blah. We'll try to get back to you in so long. Of course, there's even other stuff you could have beyond that that could be useful too. For example, that form or the results of that form may need to go into a database so you could have that information later. For example, if you're trying to get people to sign up for your newsletter and they send that and they have that option through your form, well, it'd be really nice for them to be able to submit that and it go into a database like like a Google spreadsheet, for example, that has all the names of people who are in your mailing list. So you could already see that this takes a lot of effort. And especially when you're starting out with web design, I'd say it's some pretty sophisticated programming that goes into, especially all that back end stuff of validating the form and sending out emails and all that. With all that in mind, it could be very intimidating to even want to put a form into your website. But it's a very common problem. So if you Google online forms, you're going to see that there's just tons and tons of services out there that seem to have something to build a form online. Wufoo is a very popular one. Emailmeform.com is one that I've used in the past. I see down here FormStack. They offer a really great product, and I'm currently using them on some other projects. Uh, I know how to build a form from scratch, but still I'll choose to use some of these services because they just allow me to really quickly and easily hook into other things. For example, Google Spreadsheets, or dumping it into, not dumping it, or linking it up to my authorize.net, which is a credit card service. So especially online forms that you may pay money for, are definitely not a cheap by any means. They're a service that, if the situation calls for it, use them. Whether it's for this project now, which is what we're going to use it for, or 5, 10 years from now when you've been doing this for a while. Um, Online form services just give you the ability to quickly and easily build forms with little knowledge of the back end that goes into it, and it gives you a lot of power for all. And the range of pricing for these things is all over the place. From something more expensive, like I believe I pay about $50 a month, or the company that uses FormStack for one of the projects that we built is paying about $50 a month for their form, which is, by the way, well worth it to them, to something free. I mean, Google Forms, for example, allow you to build an online form for free and embed it into your page. So